Greetings, fellow human beings. Today I'm gonna shoot shadows, and already starting my way to the city, I find these shadows of the roof on this diamond-shaped facade decoration. Interesting. It's almost just half through it, so maybe it's interesting. And I will be using the Haida ND/polarizer filter, which is not on the camera right now, but I will put it on later so that you can see how it works under this beautiful sunny day, very bright. And yeah, let's shoot this one first. Alright, so I'm still at the same place as you can see over there. I'm gonna take the bike here and continue my way over there to the city, but first I wanted to shoot this, the very common electric poles, but this time it's shadow. Here it is. They're very typical. They're all around Japan, and they're probably a landmark of the place, of the country. So yeah, shooting the shadow is a little bit original, a little bit different, so let's do this before to continue. Oh, and by the way, I will record this video in C-Log, and I will color grade it later on. So for those of you who always ask me, do I shoot in C-Log? I usually don't. I use the Canon picture profile, and then I color grade on top of it. But this time, I'm gonna try one more time to color grade in C-Log to see if I can get the highlights and the shadow a little bit better. Alright, let's move on. Alright, so here we have a very interesting scene, and it is in the shadow. The wind is blowing, so I don't know how much you're gonna hear me, and there is traffic behind. But maybe you can see that there is a gentleman on the bench, resting, maybe sleeping, and pigeons all around, especially in... Come on! Especially on that thing over there, 2 pigeons, even 3. And I like the colorful background with the slide and all the amusement things for the kids. Actually, I think the tree also makes for an interesting element in the composition. It's the one that creates the shadow also, so let's see if I can shoot that in a interesting way. Alright, so I ended up shooting more than the gentleman on the bench, who's right over there, but also pigeons. It's a little world on its own, and they're all in the shadow, creating interesting silhouettes, if I manage to capture that well. The background is a little bit busy now. I thought it was an interesting contrast of colors with the shadow, but maybe it's a little bit busy with the blue poles behind. But hopefully I got a few interesting shots. So over there we have the train tracks on top there that creates a shadow down here, and there is a way from left to right or right to left, and as you can see there are people passing by. Well, this person is coming my way, but I saw a lot of people going whether this way or that way. And I would like to get in the shadow the silhouette of the person with the perspective of the street over there. If I can manage to capture that, it will be interesting. Let's try. That plant over there, dancing in the wind. I like the shape. I like the shadows and lights play. And yeah, that's kind of cool. Somehow relaxing to me. But again, I'm gonna shoot some leaves shadow. Ooh, can you see that cat? Ooh. I caught it just when he was getting out of the shadow. Now he's back in.
I'm walking bed real down like a cool breeze. I'm gonna be better again. Drive away from me, please. I'm driving over here, trying to catch these fucking trains. Time don't fool me no more. I thought my watch to the floor was so lazy. Time don't do it again. Now I'm stressed and strange.
Here the silver structure and its shadow creates a frame around the subject, the lady on the left, and you also have leading lines as well as 3 layers. You have of course the lady in the middle ground, you have other subjects in the background, and then you have another subject, the lady holding her umbrella, in the foreground. So you have 3 layers creating depth to the picture. In this picture, what I like is that the guardman's pants, which are black, are in the shadow, while his shirt, which is white, is in the light. It creates an interesting contrast, in my opinion. And I also like the fact that he is framed by all those lines around him. Here the shadows on each side of the subjects create this narrow space of light, which makes the subjects stand out. And of course, the fact that she's wearing a colorful kimono is a bonus. This is my favorite photograph of the session. I really like the way it turned out. The subjects are not perfectly centered, but I had to wait for the traffic and the other pedestrians to pass by and clear the way. The shadows might not be very obvious, but this is more the idea of the shadow that I capture with this photo here, because the umbrellas of the ladies are used to create the shadow under this harsh sun. I also like the shop front and the frame that the shutter creates behind the subjects.
J'ai des locataires, j'ai des chambres à la journée, petit déjeuner, café, au lait, service compris et taxes en sus, j'ai des puces. J'ai des locataires, ventilateur au plafond, cosy, corner, matelas crevé. Dessus de lit en peluche debout. J'ai des locataires, radio avec parasites pour la télé. Noir et blanc, 2 pièces de 100 sous dans le ventre, je te lampe. J'ai des locataires, des lavabos ébréchés, pas très nickel, eau chaude ou froide, pas de savon au bidet, bain douche, j'ai des douches. J'ai des locataires sur le plan des sanitaires, baignoire commune au rez-de-chaussée, sac disposable pour celles qui saignent, je déteigne. J'ai des locataires, WC au fond du couloir, linoléum un peu dégueu, trou à la turque, papier, journal, j'ai la gale.
Alright, so now this is the middle end of the afternoon and the shadows are elongating, which is good. So I'm trying to shoot people crossing the streets there, hopefully one subject at a time, just like this one. And I think it's better being on top of this stuff here. Don't know if you guys can see, but I'm leaning against a light pole and I'm on top of that thing, and ooh, that's also interesting. And to be a little bit over, I can see the subject better than if I was close to the floor. It would make the shadow a little bit, oh, that's also an interesting subject. The shadow a little bit shorter, but from here it elongates the shadow, I think. So I already took a shot. I'm gonna try another one if there is an interesting subject passing by.
On this picture, what I like is the fact that the shadow goes in diagonal on the zebra crossing, and there is a big white element in the light side while the rest is empty and dark. And this big white element is of course the ambulance. So the fact that there is white subjects on one side and emptiness and darkness on the other side creates an interesting contrast in my opinion. And also I left the red lights of the ambulance just as an extra touch of contrast, like a cherry on the cake. And actually I have an ongoing series called The Red Element, so that was just like some kind of reflex from me. When visiting Dotonbori in Osaka, it's almost a must to take a picture with the Glico sign in the same position. So this time, of course, I captured the shadow of a person doing the pose. And again, we have one side, the upper side of the picture in the dark, and the lower side in the light with the shadow of the person. So I really like the contrast and the composition, and also the tiles on the floor makes for an interesting background for the shadow of the person. Here the trigger was the shadow of the hat of the lady on her face, creating all these little holes of light, and of course her emotion with that big smile. I also like the different elements in the background. On the left side we can see a lady taking a picture, and on the other side there is another lady holding an umbrella, and those elements create for interesting backgrounds. Here we have an urban scene with different elements, the river in the center, the bridge that crosses it, the boat, and of course the man lower shadow is the subject of this picture. What I really like about it are all those rectangles of lights, all pure white except for the one with the shadow of the man. The geometrical shape is interesting in itself, but of course it is its shadow that triggered my attention. I like the way it's projected on the ground. And the bonus point here is the man sleeping in the shadow. Here we have a shadow self-portrait. I like the different elements of this picture. Obviously my shadow, but moreover the shadow of the traffic lights, I really like the shape of it. And actually, I also like the round element of the sidewalk, as well as a little bit of the white crossings in the upper right of the composition. It really feels urban, in my opinion. Here I applied the concept of showing without showing, meaning that the face of the subject is out of the frame, but we can guess what he is doing by looking at its shadow. Actually, I wish that the shadow was between the white markings of the zebra crossing, but you know, you get what you get. Yet, I think it is an interesting picture because, once again, it tells without showing. Finally, here we have a very neat picture with distinctive elements. Obviously, the main subject being the shadow of the lady on the bicycle with her umbrella, but we also have the two shadows of the poles creating a frame around the subject. Here again, we have a little bit of the zebra crossing that adds to the urban feel of the picture. And once again, we have an interesting canvas created by the tiles on the ground. Alright, so I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. If you did so, please give it a like. And I really recommend that you incorporate shadows in your work because it's an original, a different way to tell a story which incorporates some mystery, contrast, and it's just plain fun to play with shadows and lights. Tell me in the comment section which picture you preferred from that session. If you want to share your best shadow pictures, hit me up on my Instagram account. If you want to follow my work, subscribe to the channel. And now I leave you with a few more shots, and until next time, enjoy the ride and spread the love.